video I want to show you a couple of pretty simple things that you can do with Excel. So I have a data set here. This is probably similar to data that you might collect about your participants' demographics. I have information about their gender, their birth date, what date they were tested. I have categorical information here about their ethnicity, and I'm assuming categorical information about their education as well. So what I want to do in this video is show you how you can insert columns and delete columns, insert and delete rows to kind of clean up your data. And then we're going to use a couple of interesting formulas that you can use to get interesting descriptives about your data. All right, so the first thing we want to do is just flick through here and see what our data looks like. So it looks like participant number 250. For some reason, we don't have any information about them. So when we're summarizing information about how many participants we have of different categories, we can probably just go ahead and get rid of this guy. Something happened, he didn't turn up. So in order to delete a row, you just want to select the row from the edge and then right click on it, and you can go delete, and it'll just move the data up. Here we have information about participants' birth date and the date that they were tested, but we don't know how old they were. And so when we were writing up our thesis, we might want to say that our participants' age range was such and such and such and such, and they had a mean age of whatever. So what we're going to do here is just insert a column. So if you select where you want that column to go, you can go right click and insert, and we can insert a column that we will put some age values in. Now you can use a simple subtraction formula on a set of dates to work out how old your participants are, given the information that you know. You know their birth date, you know the test date, you just need to know how many days are between those two dates. So if you simply insert a formula that says equals, then you click on the two dates that you want it to subtract. So you want to subtract the test date from the birth date, and it'll give you a number that is not in the right format, right? So this is assuming that because you're subtracting dates, you want it in a date format. We can change that pretty easily, right? So if we select the whole column, you can right click again and say, I want to format the cells. It brings up this lots of options. So rather than having a date format, which is what it's in right now, what you really want is the number of days that is between those two dates. So if you choose a number format and just get rid of the decimal places, it will tell you that there are 13,305 days between the test date and the birth date. Now, you're not going to report the participant's age in the number of days between their birth date and the test date. So you want to turn that into a useful value. So this is the number of days between those two dates. If we simply just divide, we put our formula in brackets and then divide it by 365, it'll tell us that this participant is 36 years of age, right? Now, whenever you enter a formula into a cell, you can pretty easily copy that formula into other cells simply by grabbing this little square on the bottom corner and dragging it down, all the way down to the bottom of your data. Okay, so there it's inserted. You can see that this person, it's subtracted their birth date and test date and divided by 365. All right, so that's how you can use a simple subtraction formula to calculate age from a set of dates. What we might want to know now about our participants is what their mean age is and what the kind of standard deviation of variance in age might be. So if we put, if we go down to the bottom of our data and insert another formula to calculate the mean, you simply type in the formula equals average and then bracket, and then you select the set of values that you want it to calculate an average on. Close the bracket and enter. Okay. So now we know that the mean age of our participants is 29, and we can do we can also calculate what the standard deviation is. So to calculate a standard deviation, you just enter the formula equals STDEV for standard deviation and select the range of data that you want it to calculate the standard deviation on, and it'll tell you that the standard deviation of this of that array of data is 5. Okay, so now we know what the mean age is and what the standard deviation is. Another useful formula that I use a lot is count. So when you have a really big data set, you can get it to count how many values are in a particular array. So you do that by simply entering the formula equals count and telling it the array that you want it to count the values, and it'll tell you that here we have 59 participants, which makes sense with what we know about our data. Our participant numbers go up to 260, but remember we deleted that guy who didn't have any data from. So we have 59 participants in our sample. And what you might want to report in your participant section is how many of those are male versus female. So we have M's for male and F's for female in our gender column, and you can use a formula countif to have it tell you how many of those are male versus female. So if we enter the formula countif, we tell it what the array we want it to count, and then here it says countif, and we tell it the range, and then we give it the criteria. So let's start with females first. We want it to count how many of those values in that column are F's, and it tells us that there are 37, so you just press enter when you're finished entering your formula. It'll tell you that there are 37 males, and then we can do the same thing for males. Now you can do a little shortcut here. If you just copy that formula down, what it's going to do is just move the array that it's working out one down. Right? So you can just pull that back up so that it captures your 59 people, and then you can just change the formula here. Instead of counting F's, I want it to count M's this time. Right? So our sample has 37 females and 22 males.